Father's Day is just around the corner. What would an ideal Father's Day look like for you?
Hey, just having fun, man. Making movies, big adventure, having a great time.
Why do Tom Cruise's 3 children all hate him? Suri Cruise, born in April 2006, is Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes' biological daughter. As Tom's only biological child, Suri has dropped the Cruise surname. She reportedly hasn't seen her father in 6 years, with sources claiming he prioritizes Scientology over family. On her 11th birthday, he allegedly refused to visit her despite being only 37 kilometers away. Now that Suri is 18, Tom has officially cut ties and stopped paying the $400,000 annual child support.
My love for cinema began when very early age. I mean, as early as I can remember. I was just a little kid.
For years, people just watched from a distance as this Hollywood story slowly twisted into something nobody expected. What looked like a picture-perfect family turned into a quiet storm. And now the truth about Tom Cruise and his daughter Suri Noelle is finally coming out. She grew up famous before she could even walk, surrounded by cameras, security, and grown-ups making decisions she never asked for. And now that she's 19, she's moving in ways that speak louder than any interview ever could. And trust me, people are paying attention. Those old red carpet smiles, they hit different now, because behind them was a father drifting one way and a daughter being pushed the other way. Now at 19, she barely speaks on it, but her choices? They're loud. And those choices have people stunned, especially anyone who remembers those picture-perfect red carpet moments from back in the day. This is the story of a daughter who spent her childhood watching her father from a distance, and a father who slowly realized she was slipping out of his everyday life, one quiet moment at a time. It all started like something straight out of a blockbuster. Back in 2005, Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes crossed paths, and their connection took over headlines before the relationship even had a chance to settle. Katie, only 26 at the time, was glowing off her Dawson's Creek success, soft charm, rising star energy, and the kind of dreamer vibe people instantly liked. Tom, already 43, was an international powerhouse with movies like Top Gun, Jerry Maguire, and Mission Impossible stacked under his name. He wasn't just a big actor, he was global cinema. For Katie, this wasn't some random Hollywood crush. Years earlier, she had told 17 magazine that her dream was to marry Tom Cruise. It seemed sweet, almost like something you'd say when you're young. Nobody thought it would ever turn into something real. But when Tom saw her for the first time, he reportedly told his team, "I'm going to marry her." That's when everything sped up like a scene jump in an action movie. Within weeks, what felt like a fantasy suddenly turned into real life. Their chemistry was so intense it could have run its own show. Cameras caught them holding hands in Rome, laughing like nothing outside their little bubble mattered. Tom, who was usually private and polished, suddenly looked like a man who got swept up by the whole thing. No brakes, no caution, just pure emotion. Then came the moment nobody will ever forget, the Oprah Winfrey Show explosion. Tom jumped on that couch and shouted, "I'm in love!" People didn't even know how to react. Some were shocked, some were confused, and others were convinced they were watching history in real time. Some people thought the whole thing was adorable, and others were giving it major side-eye. But nobody could pretend it wasn't shocking when their daughter Suri came into the world on April 18, 2006. She became a symbol of their whirlwind romance before she could even open her eyes. Tom called her birth the happiest day of my life and even described her as a miracle. But that moment was shaped by the belief system he lived by, Scientology. Katie, who came from a quiet Catholic school background in Toledo, suddenly found herself dropped into a reality that felt like a whole different universe. Her pregnancy and Suri's birth followed strict Scientology practices, including the silent birth, where the entire room had to stay quiet during delivery. Tom even got himself a personal sonogram machine so he could track every step of the pregnancy right from home. People outside their circle were confused and whispering about how unusual it all felt. Some said the whole setup was way too intense, but in Tom's mind, this was his version of love, commitment, and protection, nothing less. Then came their wedding that November, and it looked straight out of a royal storybook. They tied the knot inside a 15th century castle in Italy, a massive, glowing event rumored to cost over $3 million. Katie stepped out in a custom Giorgio Armani gown, Tom couldn't stop smiling, and the guest list was stacked with big names like Jennifer Lopez, Will Smith, and the Beckhams. But even with the glamorous smiles and fairy tale vibes, Katie's parents were uneasy. As lifelong Catholics, they didn't know what to make of the new world surrounding their daughter and granddaughter. And sadly, their fear ended up being right. That sparkle faded fast. The lifestyle around the couple grew more controlled, more closed off, and heavily shaped by beliefs, secrecy, and power that Katie was still trying to understand. Tom truly believed he was doing everything from a place of deep love. But for Katie, the atmosphere slowly turned into something that felt isolating and heavy. And for young Suri, these moments marked the beginning of a childhood nothing like what most kids experience. By 2007, Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes still looked untouchable from the outside. They were the perfect Hollywood picture: red carpets, private jets, magazine covers, all of it shining bright. But behind those glossy images, things were already cracking, and nobody outside their home had a clue what was coming next. They looked like the perfect family: the blockbuster legend, his glowing wife, and their little girl who seemed straight out of a magazine cover. But behind that polished image, something was shifting, even if the cameras couldn't catch it. People close to them noticed things before the public ever did. Katie rarely moved anywhere without somebody from Tom's inner circle right beside her. Usually someone connected to Scientology, walking so quietly and closely they felt like shadows glued to her steps. Even during the most basic outings, Katie wasn't alone. Calm, watchful faces hovered nearby, almost tracking her every move without ever looking obvious about it. One night, during a dinner with journalist Maureen Orth, something strange happened. Fans came over to say hello, and Katie gave the polite smile she always had, but then she said something that made Maureen freeze. "Oh, we don't go outside very much." It sounded light, casual, almost a joke, but people who understood the environment she was living in felt the weight behind those words. Tom, meanwhile, stayed the same driven, intense force he'd always been. Charming, confident, and fully committed to his beliefs, he stood as one of Scientology's biggest public supporters, always hyping the organization and defending it anytime critics appeared. To him, Scientology wasn't just a belief. It was order, discipline, direction, and a way of life that gave everything meaning. But for Katie, those same structures felt like invisible walls, ones she didn't always feel safe trying to navigate. Her parents, Martin and Kathleen Holmes, stood on the outside looking in, worried and unsure how to help. As devoted Catholics, the secretive systems around their daughter made them uneasy from the start. Over time, their visits slowed down, not because they didn't care, but because they felt they were losing access to her behind layers they didn't understand. Friends said Katie started changing too. She felt distant, almost rehearsed. She kept repeating the same lines anytime someone asked about her life. "He's amazing. He's wonderful." But the more she said it, the more it sounded like she was trying to convince herself rather than anyone else. That bright spark she used to have? It dimmed little by little. Meanwhile, Tom's adopted children with Nicole Kidman, Bella and Connor, were already fully committed to Scientology, raised deeply inside the faith. To Tom, it made perfect sense that his youngest, Suri, would follow the same path. But Katie wasn't ready to hand over that kind of influence, especially when the system guiding it still felt confusing, heavy, and unpredictable to her. Katie started pulling back real slow, real quiet, and real carefully, like someone who knew one wrong move could shut every door around her. By 2010, whispers started spreading that she felt boxed in. She skipped certain church-related events, reconnected with old friends she trusted, and began spending more time in New York, far from Tom's structured routine. And behind the scenes, she wasn't drifting at all. She was preparing, gathering info, taking mental notes, moving with caution like she understood her every step was being watched. By 2011, those cracks everybody tried to ignore were right out in the open. Katie's public smiles looked tighter, more practiced, and her whole presence felt guarded. People who once saw a fairy tale were now watching a woman trying to hold herself together without slipping. And every time she held her daughter's hand a little tighter, you could tell she was already planning her exit. A plan that would shake the whole industry and tear apart the picture-perfect family image the world thought was real. Then came June 29, 2012, the day everything stopped. News hit that Katie Holmes filed for divorce from Tom Cruise, and the timing had people stunned because it landed just days before his 50th birthday. But this wasn't some emotional breakup move. This was strategy, protection, and survival wrapped into one. Tom later admitted he didn't see it coming at all. "It hit me hard," he said quietly. "Life can do that to you." And he wasn't wrong. He had no clue she had been planning for months. Katie moved like someone who knew every step could be monitored. She switched phones, hired new security, replaced staff she worried were reporting her movements, and planned everything like a covert mission. Her father, Martin Holmes, a strategic, sharp lawyer, stepped in as the silent mastermind. He helped craft the prenup years earlier, and now he used it to guide her escape route like a chessboard. Katie picked New York as her battlefield because she knew custody laws there protected a parent fighting for their child's future. She filed everything in total secrecy, no leaks, no signals, no warnings. Meanwhile, Tom was in Iceland filming Oblivion, completely unaware. He found out about the divorce the same way the rest of the world did, through headlines flashing everywhere. For a man known for keeping every detail of his life locked down and controlled, this was a hit he never expected. Later, court documents revealed her motive in one simple word: protection. And that one word flipped the entire public understanding of what had been happening behind those glamorous photos and polished smiles. Katie wasn't just looking for a simple split. She wanted full custody of her daughter and full control over schooling, medical choices, and spiritual direction. Her fear wasn't about Tom as a person. It was about the powerful system wrapped around him. Former Scientologists later said Katie believed her daughter could eventually be pushed toward the strict Sea Org program when she got older, and she refused to gamble with her child's future. The legal battle wrapped up shockingly fast, almost too fast for Hollywood standards. Within just 11 days, everything was settled and locked in. Tom agreed to pay around $400,000 a year in child support until Suri reached adulthood, plus extra expenses like healthcare and schooling. But money wasn't what Katie was after. Not even close. What she wanted, what she needed, was distance. Legal distance, physical distance, spiritual distance. The day after everything was finalized, Katie and her daughter vanished from Los Angeles like they slipped right through the cracks. Reporters later spotted them walking quietly through Chelsea in New York City, hand in hand, no security team, no handlers, just them moving through the world on their own terms. Katie looked tired, worn down, but something in her face finally shifted. She looked free. She even smiled. And it was the first genuine smile people had seen from her in years. For her daughter, that new life came with something she desperately needed: distance. Real distance. Because the father who once carried her across red carpets, called her his miracle, and lit up every photo, suddenly wasn't there anymore. Not out of anger, not from a dramatic showdown, just gone. And in that strange, quiet space, a whole new chapter opened up, one that no Hollywood machine or powerful organization could interfere with. After the divorce, Tom's world and his daughter's world split cleanly into two separate lanes. No overlap, no middle ground, nothing. In 2013, he sat down for a rare deposition during a lawsuit, and the lawyers didn't waste any time. They asked him straight up, did Katie leave to protect her daughter from Scientology? Tom pushed back at first, saying the question was offensive. But then he admitted it was true, as one of the assertions. That was the closest he ever came to acknowledging the real reason for the divide. Reports from that same year said Tom had seen his daughter only once after the divorce, a quiet, private meeting with no cameras and no details shared. After that, nothing. No pictures, no sightings, no confirmed visits, just silence. And while that silence grew louder, Tom threw himself deeper into his career. Mission: impossible films, the long-awaited Top Gun sequel, worldwide press runs, and insane stunts that looked more wild every single year. Fans cheered every time he jumped out of a plane or clung to the side of a speeding aircraft, but far away from all those flashing lights. A completely different story was unfolding. His daughter was out there growing up without him, and the world barely noticed until the gap became impossible to ignore. Meanwhile, Katie was rebuilding a steady, grounded life for her child in New York. Nothing flashy, nothing wild, just real day-to-day life. She put her in a private Manhattan school, took her to local parks, small cafes, dance studios. All the simple things that help a kid grow up feeling normal instead of trapped in celebrity chaos. Friends said she was bright, warm, and surprisingly down-to-earth for someone born into non-stop headlines. Katie kept her far away from Hollywood's circus. No red carpets, no interviews, no flashing cameras chasing her every step. As she got older, she started looking more and more like her mother. Same eyes, same soft smile, that same quiet strength that didn't need to scream to be loud. But anytime someone casually brought up her father's name, she would just steer the conversation somewhere else and keep it moving, like she didn't have anything left to unpack there. Publicly, Tom never mentioned her again. Privately, insiders said he still covered her schooling and medical needs. But even after more than 10 years, there were still zero photos of them together. The man who could shut down entire city blocks during a movie premiere somehow couldn't rebuild the bridge back to his youngest child. It was like their worlds drifted so far apart, they ended up on opposite sides of the universe. Then everything shifted when she stepped into a new chapter, a new name, a new identity, a fresh lane. By 2021, she wasn't just the daughter of actors anymore. She was carving out her own path. She attended New York's iconic LaGuardia High School of Music and Art and Performing Arts, the same place that inspired the movie Fame, and she was thriving. She sang, acted, directed short films with her classmates, and started building her own creative voice piece by piece. But the real moment, the one that told everyone something deeper was happening, came during her senior year musical. When the program for the Addams Family dropped, people noticed something big. Her name wasn't listed as Suri Cruise. It appeared as Suri Noelle, using her mother's middle name. This wasn't just a cute stage choice, it was a statement, a shift, a clean step into her own world, on her own terms. And when she graduated in June 2024, that same name showed up proudly and boldly on the official graduation list, like she was closing one door and stepping straight into another. Tom wasn't there for the ceremony. He was thousands of miles away, spotted vibing at a Taylor Swift concert in London, and for people who remembered the proud dad from 2006, the switch-up hit hard. Meanwhile, Katie was right there in New York, sitting with the other parents, clapping through tears as her daughter stepped into adulthood like she'd been training her whole life for that moment. She raised her child without Hollywood armor, without flashy protection, and without a father standing beside them. Just strength, patience, and a whole lot of heart holding everything together. Later that summer, Suri headed off to Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh to major in fashion, ready to build her own lane. Katie helped her move in, carrying boxes with her own hands like any regular mom out here making sure their kid settles in, right? No bodyguards, no chaos, just a mother and daughter trying to create a normal memory in a life that had never been normal at all. That fall, Katie stepped back into her craft and started directing a new film called Happy Hours, reuniting with her old Dawson's Creek co-star, Joshua Jackson. During filming in 2025, Suri pulled up to the set. Now 19, confident, calm, and moving with the energy of somebody who finally understood who she was. Khaki pants, white tank top, red sneakers, nothing flashy. But she carried herself with a whole new presence shaped by years of keeping things quiet and learning who she wanted to be. Most people didn't even recognize her when she walked by. She moved with a steady vibe, like someone who wasn't running from her past, just choosing not to live under it anymore. Her message was crystal clear. She wasn't operating as Tom Cruise's daughter. She was Suri Noelle, and her freedom wasn't a rumor or a whisper. It was real, loud, and visible in the way she breathed. Then came the moment that cracked social media right in the chest. In October 2025, she was spotted in New York, sitting on a doorstep with her head in her hands, looking drained and deep in her thoughts. Minutes later, Katie pulled up in an Uber, walked straight over, sat beside her, and wrapped her in a calm, quiet comfort only a mother can give. They talked low, just the two of them, before getting up and heading off together for pastries to shake off the heaviness. To random people walking by, it looked like a simple moment between a mom and her daughter, nothing dramatic at all. But to anyone who understood their journey, every sacrifice, every escape, every silent battle, that moment felt like living proof of how tightly they've held onto each other since their world flipped upside down and they had to rebuild everything from scratch. Now at 19, Suri is out here living her own life, moving through her sophomore year of college, studying fashion, writing her own music, and figuring out exactly who she wants to be. She's carving her future piece by piece and doing it with a calm confidence that shows she's not hiding behind anyone's shadow anymore. Her relationship with her father is still distant, quiet, unchanged, and untouched by the years passing by. He still covers her school and health expenses, but the two haven't been photographed together or spoken publicly in well over a decade, and that silence says a lot. Meanwhile, Tom is still climbing higher in his career, pushing himself into places nobody has ever gone before. Literally, he's preparing for scenes filmed outside Earth with NASA and SpaceX, a man ready to leave the planet for a movie. After conquering Hollywood and rewriting action film history, he's now aiming for outer space. But even with all that ambition, all that power, and all those global achievements, the space between him and his youngest daughter might be the one distance he just can't close.
My love for cinema began when very early age. As early as I can remember. I was this little kid in this darkened theater, and I remember that beam of light, it just cut across the room, and I remember looking up, and it seemed to me that it just exploded on the screen. And suddenly the world was so much larger than the one that I knew. Entire cultures and lives and landscapes, and all of it was just unfolding in front of me. And it sparked something in me. It sparked a hunger for adventure, a hunger for knowledge, a hunger to understand humanity, to create characters, to tell a story, to see the world. And it opened my eyes. It opened my imagination to the possibility that life could expand far beyond the boundaries that I then perceived in my own life.
People close to the family say Katie refuses to let anger or bitterness take over her life. Instead, she stays focused on gratitude and growth, pouring everything into raising her daughter with stability and love. She calls Suri an incredible person, and she's not shy about saying that watching her daughter grow into her own strength and independence is her greatest pride ever. But even with her new name and her new path, Suri still carries a story shaped by love, pressure, secrecy, and the quiet reality of growing up with fame hovering over her every step. For 19 years, the world has watched their lives play out like a film with missing chapters. The legendary actor delivering unforgettable performances, and the daughter who walked out of his shadow with a soft, steady resolve that speaks louder than anything she could say out loud. And now that Suri Noelle is building her own world, her own identity, her own voice, the biggest question still hangs heavy in the air. Will she ever let her father back into her life? Or has the silence stretched too far for either of them to reach across? Can time heal a distance built this deep? Or are some divides simply too wide to cross, even for the biggest star on the planet? Drop your thoughts down below. I want to know what you think. And make sure to hit that like button, share the video, and subscribe if you felt anything real from this story. I'll see you on the next one. And don't forget to watch the video on your screen right now for even more celebrity drama.